Hello, my name is Sadie George. I am going to be talking about the ethnic minority people in Vietnam.
I am going to be talking about the ethnic minority people in Vietnam.
As of 2017, the population in Vietnam is 94.54 million. The official language is Vietnamese, and the capital of Vietnam is Hanoi. Religion in Vietnam has a mixture of religions like Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Vietnamese folk religion, Roman Catholicism, Taoism, and Christian Protestantism. Vietnamese also has the term Tam Gao, meaning triple religion. Most people of Vietnam identify with the three major religions of Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. The Vietnamese culture is one of the oldest in Southeast Asia and is heavily influenced by the Chinese culture. After Vietnam attained independence from China in the 10th century, the country began to expand southwards, which led to the incorporation of elements of the Chamba and Khmer cultures into the Vietnamese culture. Later French colonial rule in Vietnam introduced the Western culture to the country and led to the spread of Catholicism and the adoption of the Latin alphabet. Despite the changes over the years, some elements of the Vietnamese culture, like the veneration of the ancestors, respect for family values, devotion to study, etc., remain intact. Traditions in Vietnam include ancestor worship, burning votive paper, animist beliefs, god of wealth worship and business, visiting the pagoda by the beginning of the year, and Lunar New Year reunion, which is a Tet holiday. Vietnam arts and crafts include lacquerware, lacquer paintings, silk paintings, lanterns in Hoi An, hand embroidery, ceramics and pottery, and contemporary art. One of the first non-indigenous persons to visit Vietnam and recorded was Jesuit Father Alexandre de Rhodes, a Frenchman who arrived in 1620. Alexander de Rhodes wrote the first Vietnamese catechism. Catechism means to teach orally and is a summary or exposition of doctrine and serves as a learning introduction to the sacraments traditionally used in catechesis or Christian religious teaching of children and adult converts. Alexandre de Rhodes returned to Europe in 1650 to collect many bishops in order to accompany the development of Roman Catholicism in Vietnam, which were about 100,000 converts. Bishops were to create a strong native clergy and to avoid catastrophic eradication of Christianity, as seen in the case of Christianity in Japan around 1620. Vietnam is considered a multi-ethnic country with 54 recognized ethnic groups. 53 of these groups are ethnic minority groups. Although the country voted in favor of undeclaration on the rights of indigenous peoples, the government does not recognize ethnic minorities as indigenous peoples and has not ratified ILO Convention 169. There is no specific law on ethnic minorities. The Committee on Ethnic Minority Affairs is in charge of the affairs of ethnic minorities, like Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the Christian Reformed Church. Poverty is still high among ethnic minorities in Vietnam. In 2015, the poverty rate registered for ethnic minorities was 23.1%, while the national poverty rate was 7%. Members of ethnic minority groups make up 15% of the country's population but account for 70% of the extreme poor. This was measured using a national extreme poverty line. Ethnic minority in Vietnam is persistent because of these reasons: geographical isolation and limited market access, social exclusion, culture and language, limited access to quality land, low rates of outmigration, and low levels of education. Indigenous people in Vietnam are too far from cities and towns where market access and education are available. Similar factors would include to other indigenous cultures around the world. For the ethnic minority in Vietnam, the main challenges for them would be land tenure and the allocation of forest land to communities, unequal distribution of land, policies, laws, and regulations related to land and forest tenure vary according to the different provinces of Vietnam, and difficulty to generate income from these forest lands. For example, in 2015, only 26% of the total area of forest land was allocated to households and 2% of that land was allocated to communities for management. The right to freedom of movement is stipulated in the Constitution and asserted in the civil law of nationality, investment law, and other relevant legal documents. It is a consistent policy of Vietnam to guarantee lawful, safe, and regular migration, prevent illegal migration, and protect the legitimate rights and interests of citizens during the migration process in its entirety. However, when ethnic minorities such as Mang, Yao, Thai, and Nung people migrate from the north to the central highland, from a shortage of land for cultivation and difficulties in living conditions, these migrants are considered illegal migrants. This label causes them to suffer many deprivations in terms of rights, including not being able to register for residence, not enjoying the benefits of policies for ethnic minorities such as fee exemptions, reductions for tuition, and free medical care, being denied birth certificates and/or having the child mark as illegitimate. Local authorities have applied many actions to prevent illegal migration, such as forcing migrants to return to their homeland. However, these people become landless, as they have already sold all their property, including land, before leaving and are not able to buy it back. In 2018, at least 246 people who participated in rallies against the draft laws on the creation of special zones and on internet security were arrested and imprisoned. These arrests were carried out under judgments and criminal convictions of a variety of violations, including dissemination of propaganda against the state or activities to overthrow the government or breaking the solidarity. These convictions have carried tough penalties, with most resulting in sentences of 10 to 20 years of imprisonment. Among these were some 30 ethnic minority people from Central Highland who were convicted on charges of breaking the solidarity, with 6 to 12 years of imprisonment. There were complaints in December 2018 regarding a communal notification of the People's Community in Hao Binh Province. This notification canceled the traditional spring festival of Hmong people in 4 communes and changed it to coincide with the country's common Tet holiday. Hmong people in this locality have not been able to enjoy the spring festival in line with their traditional calendar since this modification. Among people in other areas of Vietnam such as in Mu Cang Chai, Tram Tao, Yen Bai Province, or in Ha Giang, Lao Chao, and Bien Bien, had already been successfully persuaded to give up their traditional and join the common national Tet holiday. However, in many localities, regardless of the persuasion campaigns of local authorities, people are still organizing their own traditional festivals. Reasons for land disputes include a shortage of land for cultivation, causing people to claim land illegally, land mismanagement causing disputes among different groups, the transformation of land from protected forests lands to production lands in an ambiguous manner, many projects having land allocated but with no effective implementation due to a lack of capacity within forest protection and management teams, all of which result in the lost appropriation of trading forests. In the Central Highland, approximately 285,000 hectares of land with and without ownership certificates has remained in prolonged litigation for more than 20 years. The main land disputes are between local ethnic minority people and state/private forestry companies. A typical dispute dates back from July 2018 when a young person was convicted and sentenced to death because he had shot and killed 3 people and injured 16 more. This violence was the consequence of a land dispute that had been continuing for many years with a private company that wanted to encroach on the land claimed by the IP man. In the central provinces such as Cang Binh, Cang Tri, Tao Tien, and Hue, forest land disputes are long-lasting and regular. In this area, ethnic minority people have lost their forest land, upland fields, pasture lands, jobs, wages, and compensation for land which the company has not paid. In addition, they have lost valuable natural water resources and their income from the forest products, while the land has been degraded significantly as a result of commercial eucalyptus cultivation. Between 2014 and 2018, Vietnam amended 96 new laws and ordinances related to human and citizens' rights in compliance with and to help institutionalize the 2013 Constitution. These laws include the Civil Code, the Law on Beliefs and Religions, the Law on Children, the Press Law, the Law on Access to Information, and the Law on Legal Assistance. However, ethnic minority people access to justice is still very limited, especially for women and youth. Access to the judicial system occurs primarily through village leaders, but even then on a very limited basis. Access is available through the communal authorities, but the police are rarely contacted. The regulations on prohibiting complaints in groups and beyond administrative levels and the people's inability to overcome them remain some of the biggest barriers to local people having their litigation resolved, especially for disputes relating to land and forests. This has not been addressed in recent legislation. And that is the end of my presentation.